Go ahead and close out of any open projects you have in Unreal, and then go to the Epic Games Launcher. Go to Engine version 5.4.4, click on Launch, and wait for that to load. Now, once that's loaded, go to Games, then click on Blank. We want a blank project. And here, we're going to set the project details to be Blueprint, Platform, Desktop, Quality, Maximum, Starter Content on. Make sure that's on. For your project name, I want you to call it Impulse Control. Make sure you set your location for your project to where you want it to be. Click on Create when you're done. And it'll take a minute to load, but go ahead and let that process. All right, there we go. So the default map that it gives you for a blank project is a blank open world map. There's a lot here. It's way more than we're looking for. We're not ready for this yet. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my content drawer, content folder. I'm going to right click, new folder, and call it maps. I make a new map, then file, new level, and I'm going to set this to be a empty level. Click on create, and it is a truly empty level. There's nothing in here. It's blank. I'm going to go ahead and go to file, save current level, put it into my maps folder, and I'm going to call this test map, and click on save. I'll go into edit, project settings, maps and modes, and set this to test map for the editor startup and for the game default. Close that. There's nothing in the scene. It's completely blank. Let's go ahead and add some things in here. In order for us to actually see anything in our map, we need 5 things. First thing we need to do is add in a sky atmosphere. So I'm going to go to the quickly edit project button right there. And I'm going to open up the place actors panel. This will open up a panel on the right-hand side, making it a little easier for us to work with some of what we need to do. And so in the place actors panel, we can actually look through the different icons here and find different things to add in. For us right now, though, we can also just search, and I'm going to add in a sky atmosphere. I click this and drag this into our scene. Nothing's happened yet, but it creates an Earth-like atmosphere. It works closely with the directional light. It doesn't do anything without a directional light. So we need to add that in. A directional light, I go here, place actors panel. And if I go to the light button right there, I have a directional light. Drag that into our scene. And now we have a sky. So the sky atmosphere and directional light work together to create the sky. Your directional light is basically the sun. In fact, if you select your directional light and change rotation, your sun moves. If you put it right there on the horizon there, it looks like it is sunset. If you put it below the horizon line, it goes away. So yeah, keep that in mind. By default, the light color is white. If you want it to be purple, you could do that too, or orange or whatever. You can set your light color to be kind of whatever you want it to be. I kind of think this looks pretty cool. So I'm going to set this green color. I can also change the intensity of it if I wanted to, but I'm going to set that to, just leave it at 0, or at 10 rather. That's the sun. You can actually add 2 different suns, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Now, the sun, the directional light is basically, like I said, the sun. It is infinitely far away. It is a light source that doesn't have any actual presence in the map other than it projects light out. And it creates shadows that are all parallel, which you'll see what I mean by that once we actually add some objects in. We can also set it to be change the mobility. So you can make it so it'll move as like time goes by, where we can program it to move. I don't really want the sun to really ever move. So with the directional light selected, I can see that I have this new thing down here called mobility. I have static, stationary, and movable. Static means it can't be changed in the game. Stationary means the lights will kind of get baked in, or the color and intensity can change, but not the location. So you kind of partially pre-render some lighting so it's more performative than movable, where movable is entirely dynamic. It's the most expensive, and it can cause some slowdowns as your games get more complicated. I'm going to set it to static for right now. The next kind of light I want to add in is a skylight. So in my place actors panel, in the light mode, there's skylight. I'm going to drag that into my scene. Now, this captures distant parts of the level where the lights will reflect off of it, and it's just there to kind of add more atmosphere than anything else. But we really can't see anything for this to cast on. So let's go ahead and add in a object. So I'm going to go to quick add, or actually I'll do it from here. Place actors panel, shapes. I'm going to grab a plane and drag that into my scene. I'm going to set the location to be 0, 0, 0. And then I'm going to zoom to it. So I have a plane, and I'm going to take a cube and I'm going to drag this on top of it at location 0, 0, 0. Actually 0, 0, 50. The cube is directly on top of the plane. The plane's too small. So I'll select my plane there, and I'm going to lock the scale. I'm going to increase the scale of my plane of the ground to, let's say, 20 for right now. There we go. Now, you might see a weird little kind of error where, like, why are there letters there in the shadow? That's weird. My light needs to be rebuilt. What is all this? We'll worry about that later. It kind of will resolve itself once you try to play the game. So if I have my skylight, just like that, it's way off over here. I'm going to set the location for the skylight to be 0, 0, 0, and then drag it up. If I hide it, which, by the way, there's a little icon right there. If I select the object and a little eye icon there, if I click on that, it'll hide it. You can see what it looks like with it on and with it off. If I change the rotation, nothing really changes. It's there just to kind of diffuse light out. Next thing I want to add in is something called a exponential height fog. So I'm just going to search fog, grab exponential height fog, and drag that in. You can see that that adds kind of a fogginess to everything, or if it's far away, it will get foggier. So the lower you go, the thicker the fog will kind of be. You can change the color of the fog as well and do a bunch of different settings, but we're going to leave that alone. And lastly, place actors panel, I'm going to search for clouds. So we have this volumetric cloud. I'm going to drag that into our scene, and voila, we have clouds that will actually move as the game plays. They kind of slowly shift away. And we can actually change how the clouds work and change the different settings for it. For now, though, just place those in and kind of just leave that alone. Now we have all these different light things that are in our scene now, in our outliner, that can kind of clutter things up. I'm going to right click inside my outliner, create folder. I'm going to call this lighting. I'll take my directional light and drag that in there. Same with the height fog, the sky atmosphere, skylight, and my volumetric cloud. Now the lighting can all be collapsed down and hidden. I'm going to select all 5 parts of these. I'm going to set the location of all of these to be 0, 0, 100. Let's do 1000. All of those objects are there, and I can, adjust them out. But you can see the little gizmos that are there. I kind of just wanted them out of the way. If they're down where we're working, it can get a little cluttered. So I personally like to kind of put them all there above the origin. So I can still see them, that they're there, and mess around with them, but they're not going to get in our way. Now, because my directional light is this green color, everything has this greenish hue. That might be a little too intense. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit. So it's just slightly green or slightly purple or whatever you want it to be. You have complete control over what you want it to actually end up looking like. Thinking about it, I'm going to set this back to white because we're going to work with materials, and it's easier if the materials actually look like they're supposed to. And we can play around with it lighting a little bit more later. couple of things you might be interested in. If you go to the sky atmosphere, you can see that even though my light's a little green, the sky atmosphere is blue. What if you don't want a blue sky? Well, if you select your sky atmosphere and scroll down to atmosphere Rayleigh, you can actually click on this and select a different color. You can make it really dark, nighttime, a slightly purplish tint. And you can select your directional light and you can make this darker. And lower the intensity a bit. So it's real dark. Looks almost like nighttime. Changing the color of the clouds is a little more complicated, but you can't really just change a slider, and therefore you have to create a new material, which we'll learn about a little bit later. So I'm not going to stress about that at the moment. But there we go. We now have a basic scene with some lighting, and we have our map saved. As you work, you may notice that your lighting might just be a little funky still. If you press play, it'll rerun your lighting, and you actually might need to go in and run some console commands to rebuild your lighting. It's fine. It'll go away. If you go to File, Save All, and then close it and reopen it, it should fix itself. And if not, you can just go into the top bar up here, Build Lighting Only, and we'll go through the process of rebuilding the lighting once you've made all those changes. It may take a little while though. Once I've done that, I can see that my settings are a little extreme. So I'm going to reset most of the settings back to their defaults for the video, but I did want you to see how you can do this stuff.